Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, welcome to the March meeting of the East Lampeter Sewer Authority. And present here is members Vinny Patel, myself, Rick Robinson, Brent Stolzus, Fred Clark's on Zoom. We have Charlie Thomas and Matt Cici and Tara Hitchens here. And I invite you to join us in the pledge to the American flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We've had the minutes for about 3 weeks now, so unless there's any additions or corrections, they're going to stand approved as written. Treasurer's report.
Sure. So for sanitary, we have a balance of $1,933.22. And we have checks of check number 543 to HRG for $1,328.50. Check number 544 to LNP Media Group for $879.40. And then checks to the members for $25 each for a grand total of $2,332.90.
For the bills. Okay, do we have any requisitions?
Yes, we have one requisition number 03-593 payable to Herbert Roland and Grubik for the Stauffer Run Pump Station upgrade bidding services and the sewer relocation for the PennDOT Route 30 bridge replacement project in the total amount of $2,726.50.
Okay. Looking for a motion to pay the bills and requisitions for the sanitary sewer.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. We have stormwater bills.
So for stormwater, yes, we have 3 checks. Check number 1013 for $100 to Monarch Products. Check number 1014 to LB Water Services for $67.65. And check number 1015 to David Miller Associates for $745. Grand total this month of $912.65.
Guess we're looking for a motion to pay the bills for the stormwater.
I'll make the motion to pay the bills for stormwater.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, under the old business, sanitary sewers, Stauffer Run upgrade.
We've had the pre-construction conference with the contractors. That happened on March 1st. We reviewed the project with them, then went out to the job site, to the pump station to look around. so they can get their eyes on it as well. They're in the process of compiling all of their submittals, getting all that paperwork and documentation together. They'll then be submitting it to us for review. One of the items the contractors noted is just the material lead times, particularly on the electrical equipment. They said some of that electrical gear is, 20 weeks out upon receipt of approved submittals. So, there's a period of time that they're taking just to get the paperwork to us for the submittals. We'll then review it. But once it's released, there is a period, like I said, they gave them 20 weeks right now. They said it could even be longer than that. So you actually see construction starting. I think it's going to be, a couple months till they actually get on site. There's a few things the general contractor can do, but it's going to take some time to get all the materials in place before they really start getting in there and doing that project. The electrical contractor did note they've got a couple items where they may offer some a change in, say, electrical conduit, for example. They asked if we'd be open to considering a different material from a galvanized steel or a PVC coated steel to an aluminum conduit. They said there could be a credit offered for that with that switch. But we haven't seen that paperwork yet. We'll wait for that to come through. They also said they may have some other different options for some electrical gear layout, and that may offer a credit as well. So again, we're waiting on that paperwork to come through. That's where we stand.
I like the honesty of the contractor. Any other old business under sanitary sewer? Under stormwater, old business, Greenfield Road storm sewer project.
As I reported last month, the tree cutting service has not taken place yet. They're supposed to give me a week's notice on that so I can notify the property owners. They're aware that it's coming. Spoke with the engineer towards the end of last week. If you remember, the bids came in real high. We also added a material. It doesn't have to be a DOT pipe specifically because it's off-road. It's in a right-of-way. So that's supposed to go back out to bid on Penn bids sometime this week. I would imagine probably the May meeting will probably have bids open unless we can get through to the April meeting, but that's pretty quick. Not sure if we'll have it through that quick. But the April or May meeting, we're going to be looking at possibly awarding bid.
Where are the trees at? Are the trees along?
They're all along Amtrak and
Amtrak.
behind those buildings, yeah. So we thought we would subcontract the tree removal. And that way, that's one less thing off the contract has to be done. This way it's done. We can get stake out a while. We won't be waiting for that. We'll take all the trees down that are just outside the Amtrak right away. There is a piece there. If you remember, we have an easement that goes around one of the corner of the buildings. We're going to leave those trees because Amtrak has to have a police officer, Amtrak police security there. So we won't enter their right away until they're on site. We'll do it all in one shot. Because I think cost of that police officer is, don't know how much it is, but they'll be charging us.
There's a train coming.
Yeah, there's a train coming. Everybody stay back. I think that's all they do.
5 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Nope.
Charlie,
Any
do
other
you
old?
have- I have a question. Charlie, do you have any update on the pipe, the new pipe that you spec'd? Have you got any dates or out lead times on that?
For the pipe that's going to go in,
Yeah,
at least 24 weeks.
okay, because even the other stuff, 24 weeks.
The concrete structures, I talked to a couple contractors and they look like they're like 2 to 4 weeks out.
Okay,
Yeah, I talked to a contractor about a grease trap that's going to be installed. And they said they were looking at 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Any other old business under stormwater? New business under sanitary sewer, the treehouse discussion.
So we had a meeting with Representatives Treehouse today on site to discuss sewer related, the flow meter vault that they want to install on their sewer lateral. Ask them what their intent is for that vault, like why is it something that they need, because it's not required here by the authority. They indicated it's two purposes. It's more so for their pre-treatment agreement that they have with the city requires them to monitor the pH that they're discharging of the pH of the wastewater they're discharging to make sure it's within the limits that they have with the city. So within their treatment process, I believe it's inside the building, they're monitoring the pH level of the water coming out. Treehouse would like to have for their own records, basically a pH reading taken of all their wastewater being discharged into the system. So that's one of the reasons for the vault. They'd like to have that there for the pH meter purposes. Secondarily, the flow meter that's associated there in that vault structure, they'd like to be able to monitor the flows going through the system and have that correlated with the pH probe readings that are taken. Now, we discussed that with them. The flow meter that they have selected in that flow meter has a minimum flow requirement of 15 gallons a minute to go through the flow meter so it registers. So we told them, we said, there's a lot of period of time when you just have sanitary waste from a toilet being flushed, sink usage, it's going to be below that 15 gallon per minute threshold for the flow meter. They said, we understand that. They're more concerned with when they empty their process tanks, their cookers. They said there's a large volume of water there that they want to be able to capture that flow, capture the pH during those events. So they're saying this is something that they're intending to have now. They're hoping at some point in the future, once they demonstrate to the city that their upstream pH sensor is working, with document compliance, maybe at some point they can eliminate the flow meter, the pH sensor in the vault at some point in the future. Because the other reason for that is for that pH sensor and flow meter to work, they actually have to put a trap in the line. And it's creating a big building trap in there. So during their low flow periods, when they have their sanitary waste going in, that's a big area there for solids to settle out, debris to build up. So, our concern was material, when you get in there, you're gonna have to clean that out. Now you've got water that gets in that trap. It's gonna empty into the vault. They had proposed a sump pump in the vault. And they were saying the sump pump was there for groundwater purposes, infiltration in there, similar like you have in a house. They want to pump that water out. We said, what happens when you need to clean that structure? We don't want the sewage getting there, going on the surface, going to the ground. So they said, well, we'll pump it into the sewer system. We said, well, you can't do that either. So what they're going to do is basically take that sump pit out, sump pump out. If they need to get in there for access purposes and there's water that's in there, they'll hire out a vac truck, something along those lines, to come pump that out and dispose of it properly. So that was acceptable to us. So they're going to revise their plans from a sanitary perspective to show those revisions, and we'll review that, but everything made sense, and we're all in agreement for the process for them to move forward. And then they're also on the township side, they're working through with the township on the land development process for the building expansion for their whole pre-treatment process. So that's being done. They indicated that Treehouse committed to the city of having their process in place for pre-treatment by the end of the year. So they're saying that once they get building permit approvals, and that's received. They're estimating 30 to 60 days of construction for the building addition, the pre-treatment system, everything that's needed there.
How big a building are they putting up?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it's real big, but it's going to be right next to the existing building. If not an extension of the existing building.
Yeah,
I don't know the
I
dimensions.
forget what the square footage is, but it's not huge.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about it really, but don't seem like they have a whole lot of land left there, do they?
They don't. They had to go to the zoning hearing board to address having additional expansion of that building.
They did, Treehouse provided the videos of what they cleaned. So I know staff is looking at.
Yeah, Klein's wouldn't release it. I had to reach out to Treehouse to get the video because it wasn't Klein's, which I understood, and they had no problem releasing the video to us. They're well aware of the agreement with the authority of monitoring the line and then the cleaning at the end of the construction, once everything's done, and then monitor it a couple years afterwards too, I think. Make sure there's no debris back in the line.
Okay. Sixth Amendment.
So the 1983 sewage agreement, which involves both the township, the authority, the city, and the other various partners that contribute flow to the city's treatment plant. And Manor Township, up until, well, has never been a party to the agreement. They have a small portion on the extreme east side of their township, which is just the west side of Lancaster. They have a small sewer system over there that they've been operating, maintaining, and that flow has been and continues to go into the city's treatment plant. It's been up until now just considered part of the city's flow. LASA is now acquiring the Manor Township system. And the goal here is to incorporate that as part of LASA's agreement in the 1983 agreement. So the amount of their flow is going to go up based upon how much is coming out of Manor Township now. And the agreement wanted to be modified to address that. So this amendment was prepared for that purpose, essentially to accommodate that transfer of that system from Manor Township to LASA and get it all into this agreement with all the partners in the city's treatment plant. We had initially some question about some of the numbers that they had in the tables, which initially appeared to indicate that East Lampeter's allocated capacity was going to be reduced as a result, not by much, but some, as a result of this transfer. And really, from our perspective, we're not involved in this transaction. We should be harmless from any changes. And they agreed conceptually to that. Apparently there was some mathematics, rounding numbers and things that made it seem different. So we got clarification on that. And I think the copy that you have now stretches out some of those numbers to 3 numbers beyond the decimal point instead of 2 numbers beyond the decimal point. From our perspective, Matt, you looked at this carefully. It's fine. We're not losing anything as a result of this transaction, but we are party to the agreement. So they're looking for all of the parties to the agreement to approve of the amendment, ultimately sign it, and continue on our happy partnership ways.
So what do you want from us here?
Looking for your action to approve of the Sixth Amendment to the 1983 Sewage Capital Contribution and Treatment Agreement.
You have a motion.
Even though it's a draft amendment, doesn't matter if it's a draft amendment, you just want a motion for the amendment?
Yeah, I don't believe there are going to be any changes from this draft that you're looking at now.
They didn't finalize the agreement until all parties have agreed to the changes. So once all parties agree to it, then they'll send the one out for signature.
Okay, then I'll make the motion that we agree to sign the amendment called the Sixth Amendment to the original agreement.
You have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, if we could go back 1 second.
Sure.
I'll share the screen so you can get an answer to treehouse expansion.
It's the top left.
735 square feet.
That's not very big.
No, it's not much. You'll see it's off of Laurel Oak Lane on that side of the building.
Smaller than Brent bedroom.
It's not much.
Thank you, Tara.
I'll email my contact at the city tomorrow and let him know Elsa approved the draft copy. If he wants to start circulating the original for signature, I can get a hold of somebody. I was just going to wait till next month.
Yeah, the township and the authority are both parties. So the supervisors will be looking at this at their next meeting on the 21st.
Sorry. Yep. correct.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with telling them that sewer authorities taking action.
Future sewer extensions.
So this, we briefly discussed this last month, and you had asked for information on where the sewer extensions were in the 537 plan. So I had sent out information last week, and it's also included in the attached here in the engineer's report. But the township's 537 plan update, which began back in 1999, wasn't approved by DEP until 2012. But at that point, back in 1999, the township and the authority then developed a list of projects that they looked at for sewer extensions, unsewered areas here in the township here for the future. DEP back in 2012, before they approved this, they asked for a schedule, and the crystal ball at that point said, hey, we're looking at this at like a 10-year window. So I was looking at like 2022 timeframe for having those sewer extensions there implemented. That was what the schedule indicated back in 2012. So attached, or there is a list of projects that were list of projects contemplated by the 537 plan. Some of those you'll see in the table were identified as no longer being considered in 2012 for various reasons. But it gives a project number, the description, the estimated cost when that was done back in $1999. And there's an exhibit associated with that to identify the locations of those potential projects. So, again, I don't think there's, certainly I don't think there's members of the public that in these areas that are at least indicated to the township that, hey, we're looking for sewers to be extended, but this was something that was presented to DEP back in 2020, in 2012. Now, DEP's got a lot on their hands. I don't think they're going to be banging on the door here to say, hey, where do we stand? But at some point, they may pick your file up and say, hey, what's going on with these? Like, what's the progress of it?
Yeah, and part of this came around too, due to that possible infrastructure bill coming out. So if the money's going to be thrown out there, this will give you an idea of places we could start looking instead of trying to start from scratch.
So you're looking for approval to update the numbers and stuff like that?
It was more just for information. If that's something you want us to consider and look at, we can do that. The state, we thought it would be in February, but it hasn't been released yet of how, Pennsylvania has a certain pot of money they're getting from infrastructure. They were going to say, they were supposed to release guidelines of how they were going to utilize that money. And, would it be through various programs at the state? Are they just going to look and allocate all that money to Penvest and let them handle it? We're just not sure. So that's still to be released. But again, as Charlie said, if there was a desire to extend sewers to these areas, there is potential funding opportunities there through that infrastructure funding for that purpose.
And would it be possible at all to figure out the most important projects there somehow? I mean, it's been years since anybody was here to say they needed sewer.
Right. And
I
we're not
mean, it
expecting-
seems to me the only reason we're looking at this is because there's a possibility of getting some federal government money.
The one project on here, which gave me a little bit of thought, but it's not an extension of service project. It would be to eliminate Oaks 1 pumping station. The reason that gave me pause is that the area that would be involved is an area that's going to be dug up for the Western Gateway project on Lincoln Highway. And if there's a contractor out there digging things up for the highway project and we want to get something under that highway to eliminate Oaks 1, that might be an opportunity time to do that. And Fred can't see this, but the members in here can. This is the streetscape plan that we're working on, and the Western Gateway project is basically going to go from Walmart to Harvest. Oaks 1 is here, and the general concept for eliminating it was to go under here and tie into gravity lines down by Oakview. So I share that just because, Hutch comes up with crazy ideas sometimes.
How realistic is that number, 675,000 to do that? Is it twice that now today, 3 times that?
I think that number was to eliminate both Oaks 1 and Oaks 2. Oaks 2 would be wouldn't be the same type of area that we'd be disturbing. So some portion of that 675 would be what we're talking about for Oaks 1.
These are numbers from 1999.
Yeah,
too,
they're old.
so-
Yeah.
And I think that's Fred's question, how much is it gonna be, just to do that or whatever.
And do I understand this correctly, that you're basically adding another gravity line, that you could do away with a pump station?
That's the concept. And that would be that's the pump station what's causing the township staff some fits. during
Why?
hot weather.
Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah,
Is my question.
exactly. I agree, Fred.
Yeah.
Pump stations have a cost forever.
Yep.
If it costs $1 million to take out a pump station, it's probably worthwhile.
And especially if we can get federal money.
Yeah, some others pay for it. That is always helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, the only thing, just remember, all that federal money, if it is tied to income numbers, we're not going to qualify, but
Right.
don't get too excited about that.
I think, Matt, I would be interested in finding out what the current numbers would be for that number 6, which Hutch just mentioned, eliminating Oaks 1 and 2 both. Because if you can eliminate that and go gravity, we would cut our operating costs, our replacement costs, and all future costs. We can go gravity. Right, Hutch, both of them could be eliminated and go gravity with both of them?
Yeah, conceptually, that was looked at back
Yeah.
in the late 90s, and it was felt that, the grades were such that conceptually it could work. Once you get into actually doing the design, you find out for sure. But
And we think we could handle the flows then down the gravity
It would be
pathway?
it'd be the same pipe that the pump station flows into, or the force main dumps into.
Yeah, those Oaks 1 and Oaks 2 now pump to fertility anyway. So basically it'd be eliminating
Okay.
those two.
We would change the point of connection from on the north side of 30 to further downstream of that point. So same line overall, be carrying the flow. Instead of just coming in up here, we come in at a lower spot. along that
Okay.
line.
Gotcha.
does seem like a no-brain, situation here, to me.
yeah, I mean, going under a highway like Route 30 isn't, a snap of the fingers. So, you're dealing with PennDOT and you're dealing with those design requirements and, the traffic issues. Hopefully it would be like a directional bore kind of thing, but, it's a long ways.
Easements through
Right.
private property there, the shopping center complex.
So, but again, conceptually, it seems like it's possible. So we just have to put some energy into figuring out if it really is.
Well, I know this type of work is being done. While I'm spending my time in Florida, I was watching them put in an 8-inch sewer line bored through, and they were like going 2 blocks long with the same machine, boring an 8-inch sewer line.
And
I didn't even know they had equipment to do that.
yeah. So, that's stuff that we've done on pressure projects. So when you've got a force main, a low pressure line, the primary point of or method of construction nowadays, a lot of times they'll look at if they can do it is a horizontal directional bore. Now, when you're looking at gravity systems, though, it's a little bit more complicated because of the grade that they need to maintain. On a pressure line, if you have a little hump in that, it's not the end of the world. But on a gravity line, if you get a little belly in the line, you create a low spot for material to just sit and develop. So for crossing 30, what it may more likely be is a directional jack and bore where they excavate a pit down that's maybe 30, 40 feet in length on one side of 30. They have a machine that's down there that jacks and bores augers into place a steel casing pipe. And then within that steel casing pipe, you actually run the sewer line through the center of it. So even though that steel casing pipe might have a little undulation to it, the sewer pipe inside of it, is giving you that nice straight alignment that you need for gravity flow. And Fred, there's some of those directional drilling machines. You see a lot more out, I'd say, in the Midwest. Some of those can go like a mile in length of like 20 or 36-inch piping. So there's some pretty impressive equipment that's out there. We don't necessarily get that into that for what we're dealing with, but a lot of the gas lines, petroleum lines, things like that, they get into that and they can drill some pretty impressive distances nowadays.
Well, it's just, to me, it's now that this equipment has been developed. I mean, I'm sure this thing was designed years ago and you had to put the pump station in because they didn't have that kind of equipment to go across.
Right.
So that's why I think this needs to be revisited because, and then my next question would be the Delchester pump station. How can that be bypassed?
Well, that was one where we had looked at extending it across Route 23. And we were going to go through, I guess it would be Upper Laycock Township. So we'd actually run the line to the north and loop it around till we get to the stream up there.
But that's the new Devon Creek pump station though, that Keystone built.
Right.
Yeah, before that development was really going in, that's when we visited that pretty hard about trying to eliminate that station and go gravity down underneath 23.
So we're really not looking at any added maintenance expense on that station for quite a while. So what would be the point?
Yeah, the other area I know was studied hard was Project 3, the New Holland Pike Sewer Extension. I remember that. That was one of the first ones I think I was actually involved with, probably like 2007, 8 timeframe. There was a big study and effort done back then to look and see like what would be needed for that one. But I think it was determined back then there wasn't a need for it or a precedent at that time.
No, I think there was a need for it. It's just that we didn't qualify for virtually any funding because, again, of the average income over there.
Right, but we still haven't had property owners approaching us, looking for public sewer.
Yeah, I don't remember any real need. It was, I thought we were kind of looking just to do a project almost. I just don't remember that as being a real need, but again, I guess you're going to get, or you could get, federal funds. It's something to look into, but otherwise.
Well, no, I mean, the project should be left on the list. I mean, somebody's going to walk in someday. But no, it doesn't have to be moved up.
Yep.
Could I ask also the old Philadelphia Pike Sewer Extension, where was that at?
It's down towards Bridgeport. There's a gap in the system between where Rosewood Terrace comes out and what's that little street that goes down to
Michigan Avenue?
Yeah, Michigan Avenue. It's kind of it.
Cedar Acres to Greenfield in that area. I'm just looking at that.
But on the south side.
On the south side, yeah.
Yeah, because off of Pennsylvania Avenue, there's a couple houses back there. There's a sewer line in behind that. Was it 1774 Motel or something?
1776.
1776, yeah. There's a little sewer line back in there and people right next door don't have sewer. There's, like Hutch said, there is a small area there that's not connected.
Do I also remember that area being like a deeded access problem that was that ever cleared up?
Well, I'd
I
have
don't
to,
remember.
I'd have to look back.
Boy, something sticks in my mind about that sewer line, next to properties. It wasn't in the middle on the property lines. It was, and then there was, why do I think that was a problem area back there? was back behind everything. Everyone just ignore it and it'll go away.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm starting to remember there was like manholes buried underneath pine trees and stuff and
Something wasn't right back there, and I
Yeah.
forget. It was-
Any other discussion for the future sewer extensions?
So just, you'd like me to proceed with identifying, basically looking at the elimination of Oaks 1 pump station, Oaks 2 pump station, just to see what those potential costs may be. Is that the direction right now?
Yes.
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 Any other new business under the sanitary sewer?
Popeyes.
yes. I'm trying to think the address, 20, what is it? 2246 Lincoln Highway, used to be the old Pizza Hut. They're putting a Popeyes in there. There was some issues between the architect drawings and the land development drawings. And the sewer line / grease line coming out of the building has only 26 inches of cover on it, and the ELSA specs call for 36 inches of cover. They have proposed different options to be able to let it where it's at and to connect to the grease trap. This has been going on for about a month now. If they lower the line in the building, they've got to lower the grease trap almost a foot. And I know it's not our issue. They're saying there's a lot of water and rock on the site. It's going to delay opening 45 days, on and on and on. But they came up with a couple solutions. Of course, the laterals, the owners, we have no jurisdiction over it. I'm just scared if we allow them to do it and something happens, are they going to come back and say, well, you allowed us to do this? But I thought getting an agreement signed, but then again, it all comes back that it's not our problem. It was installed wrong. But Matty, you came up with some types of ideas also.
Between the grease trap and the building, it's at a greater slope than minimum slope. So minimum slope is 2%. They said they could relay the pipe between the grease trap and the building to where it comes out. And it would go from about 24 inches of cover, 24, 26 inches of cover, down to about 33, 34 inches of cover. So not quite to 36. So their thought was bring the grease trap or connect to the line coming out, basically drop it right away, and then run at the 2% slope where they've got 33, 34 inches of cover. I had looked at the pipe material that would be there with the cover, because this would be in the drive-through lane near the grease trap. What would be the potential deflection based upon that loading of the pipe, that amount of cover? And it ended up being like 2.5% deflection, which is less than the 5% that's allowable through a manual test. So you're within the allowable limits of deflection with the pipe based upon that cover. So from a strength perspective, if that pipe's properly installed, bedded, and backfilled, I wouldn't see any long-term issues with the loading of the pipe in that situation. That pipe would be, it's adequately, has sufficient strength there. It's not going to deform anything along those lines. So from an engineering aspect, I would be okay with that proposed solution. It's just that reduced cover is less than what the specifications call for per the land development. So there's just the exception to that.
I have two questions. One is, there is many more laterals in East Lampeter Township that are not even 26 inches deep, and you don't want to know about them. Number two, Isn't that a building code issue? What does that have to do with us? That lateral installation?
We're
And
responsible for the exterior. I don't know what building code calls for inside.
so how was this even found?
Our guys were down there to do an inspection and they had the lines exposed. And for inspecting exterior of the building, we go by East Lampeter Sewer Authority specifications and it was
Okay.
measured up.
And how long has this building been used before it was renovated?
It's not even used. They started from
No,
scratch.
no. How old's this building?
The Pizza Hut that was there, it was the old Pizza Hut along 30.
Right. Oh, so this is not an existing lateral?
Correct. This is a new lateral. So the LD, as I understand it, the LD plans called for the entire Pizza Hut, including the foundation, to be demolished. The finished floor of the building was to be raised 6 inches. As I understand it, they demolished the building but left the slab and constructed from that point up. So there was a bust there, so they were already 6 inches lower construction from what the approved land development plan said.
But is it a new grease trap?
It
Yes.
is, yes.
The grease trap has 3.5 foot of cover on it, which is spec. And about 16, 18 feet away is where this lateral exits the building.
What's the distance from the building to the grease trap? Approximately 16 feet?
About 18 feet. I think I scaled on the plan.
Is there any way we could have them sign some sort of agreement and attach it to the deed or somehow that they would be responsible if there's any problems?
But
Down the
I thought
road.
aren't they responsible anyhow?
They are responsible, but if we deviate from the spec, that means we're agreeing to it. But I'm thinking the RGS who designed it, if they would sign off of it and say, we're okay with this, then that takes total responsibility away from Elsa.
I would just write them up and say that it doesn't meet our spec, and if they want to use it that way, fine, let them use it.
Yeah. I think we should have them sign something, or agree to have RGS agree to it or something like that, just to cover.
Yeah, I think that having a design engineer committed to it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because it's the property owner's response. I mean, the contractor's out in New Jersey. He ties it in, he leaves. Then property owner's going to come back and say, you allowed it. So, yeah.
It's a shame it has to come down to stuff like this, you know that?
Yeah, not the sewer authority's fault, not staff's fault, all on the contractor for not following the plans. And we're left with making a decision.
If our guys wouldn't have went down to do a preliminary inspection, it'd be buried right now. We wouldn't even know about it.
That's why I'm saying there's a lot of laterals that do not meet your specs. You just don't know about them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When stuff's dug up, there's sometimes the main's so shallow, it's stuck where it is. It has to be
Yeah.
installed that way. But if there's 8 feet of fall between the main line and they came up just to get shallow, then we got issues with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it. Just get somebody to sign off on it, but it's.
We'll get the design engineer
There's much worse situations than that out there.
Okay, anything else under the sanitary sewer? Under stormwater. Update on the MS4.
Staff provided you with a report on the MS4 happenings over the last month. The two that I'll highlight is that we received the letter from DEP regarding their review of our annual report submission. And the other is that Charlie Thomas and I have been having numerous conversations with landowners in the Stauffer Run area in order to determine PRPs in that particular watershed to meet our MS4 requirements under the permit. So we've been trying to move that forward as quickly as possible.
The next one I forgot to take off. That was taken care of last month.
Yeah, I have no other questions or thoughts about that. I don't know about anybody else, but. So is there any other new business under stormwater?
I have none.
Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, everyone. I'll see you next month.
I was going to ask Fred, are you going to be here next month?
Yeah, I'll probably, I hate to think it, but I guess I will.
Bring some of that warm weather back with
Hey,
you.
Fred.
Okay. All right, see you later. Bye.
Yeah, Fred.
Yeah.